welcome to Mystery Simon Theater 3000. I'm Simon, and this is a podcast where I'm showcasing my VHS collection of almost 3,000 titles, because my goal is to watch them all. In every episode, I'm going to be telling you about 3 tapes that I watched. The first one is chosen at random with a random number generator. The second one is chosen by my co-host Juan Carlos. And then the third one is chosen by a featured guest. And this episode, that guest is editor, animator, classic Portland weirdo, Tyler Wolters.
Thank you. Beautifully done.
Now, somebody got that wrong in the actual press, right?
Yes.
When you were at Legoland.
Yes, I was at the
I'm sorry, what?
The pre-opening for residents of Legoland in California, in Carlsbad, California. I was 8 years old, and for some reason the interviewer thought it would be a good idea to ask the kid how you pronounce and spell their name, and so it showed up as Tyler Waters.
Okay, so it's not just me.
It's not. You're not alone. Yeah. We are not alone.
Well, thank you for joining us, Tyler.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be here. I love this studio space. I love everything about it. I love looking at different titles and being distracted, as we all do when we come in this space.
It's a very distractible space.
Yes, absolutely.
Unfortunately.
So what movies did you select for this week?
Funny thing, I don't get to choose any of the movies I watch. The first movie that we picked, I guess our first pick, is the random number generator one. That one is Country Life, starring Sam Neill and Greta Scacchi. Then the tape that Juan Carlos picked, who is not here, this is producer Johnny, this is not Juan Carlos. Juan Carlos is still sick and can't join us. However, he wanted me to watch my tape of Mission Impossible. I was eternally grateful for that. And Tyler.
Yes.
Your pick is?
I picked The Mummy. This
1999's
is
The Mummy.
Not to be confused with the 1932 The Mummy or the 2017 The Mummy.
Yes, although there wouldn't be a tape for it.
Yes, what are you going to talk about first?
I'm going to go in the order that I watched them because that feels natural to me, and that's the order that my notes are in. And the first one that we watched was Mission Impossible. So I will take us through the box art. Very, very classic. This is a tape that I had in my collection at home, and I've admired this box for decades now.
It's a great silhouette of Tom Cruise's face. And
it's a really simple, I think, in terms of just like how box art is designed. Like sometimes there's thought put into it. A lot of times it looks like a template someone like really just didn't think about. And, this looks, you're not going to be able to see it here. I guess we'll just cut in some.
I can see it. It looks great from
You can
here.
see it. But yeah, I think it's just really well designed, and it's thoughtful, and it's a really short log line.
What's with the line through the text here and the title? You see this line? Is this supposed to signify something, the divide between political, powers in the movie?
No. If I had, I'm pretty sure that's the burning wick of an explosive,
cool.
Which would start the show that this is based off of, and it starts the movie. There's a cold open, but once it starts, one thing, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but just the opening credits for this movie, and this is a Brian De Palma film. This was before Mission Impossible was a franchise, and this is a homage to the television show, and the opening credits run like a television show opening credits. It's wonderful.
It's
I love it.
Great editing.
So
tell us the log line from this
well, first
case.
We got a pull quote here from Peter Travers from Rolling Stone. That's again a legitimate critic from a
legitimate news source.
I feel weird saying that, but yes, it's printed fairly big, so they want you to know that this is from a well-respected film critic. I just find that so funny about the pull quotes with the authors. It's so small you can't read. They don't want you to know where it came from. They just want you to take it out of context. No, but this says, "A thrill machine that won't quit. Peter Travers, Rolling Stone."
Much like Bender from Futurama.
There we go. You heard it here, folks.
Thank you. Tom Cruise ignites the screen in this runaway smash hit that, quote, holds you on the edge of your seat before blasting you out of it. Howard Rosenberg of the Los Angeles Times. Cruise stars as Ethan Hunt, a secret agent framed for the deaths of his espionage team. That is too big of a spoiler, I think.
Wow.
That's like it's not before the cold open, but it is the first act of the movie.
Yeah.
You don't I don't think you're supposed to know going into it that his whole team dies unless you've
I had not seen Mission Impossible, any of them, until this year, actually, and I went through and watched them all, and I had not known that fact, and it was quite the shock to realize that.
But it paid off, though,
Oh,
right?
it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would not want to have known that before watching it.
Cruise stars as Ethan Hunt, a secret agent framed for the death of his espionage team, fleeing from government assassins, breaking into the CIA's most impenetrable vault, clinging to the roof of a speeding bullet train. It's a whole plot. They're doing it for us. Hunt races like a burning fuse to stay one step ahead of his pursuers and draw one step closer to discovering the shocking truth. Your mission, should you decide to
Wait, seriously? It says decide?
A little twist here.
is it like a copyrighted thing?
Should you
that they
decide to
couldn't do?
watch?
I don't know. That line always made me laugh, even when I just first watching the movies. I'm like, is it really a choice? They're not talking about it like it's a choice. All right. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, hang on for the, quote, wildest ride of the year. Stephen Holden, The New York Times.
Am I correct in hearing that they used the word fuse twice in that, at the beginning and towards the end?
No, ignites.
Oh, okay.
So they actually
tie-in.
just brought it back.
Oh,
they
yeah.
just brought it
I
back.
can appreciate that.
Otherwise, it's pretty well written and a lot shorter than we gave. We really stretched that one out. So this one stars Tom Cruise. It stars Jon Voight, Bing Rames, Kristen. And what I thought was interesting was that of his crew who dies, Kristen Scott Thomas is the only one who gets a credit.
Yeah, Emilio Estevez is completely
Well, he's the first one to
uncredited.
die.
Yeah.
Although I think he has more lines than the other lady, the French one.
First to die, first to lose your credit. If there was a one-word description that you would use for this movie, what would you describe it as?
Exciting. This is a really good action thriller, like blockbuster. It goes really big and it pays off and it's really dramatic and I loved all of it. Maybe also what I like about it is, compared to where the movie franchise evolved into, is it got a lot grittier. Mm-hmm. And this is just of a time that I don't know, I have a lot of nostalgia for action movies or blockbuster movies of the late 90s and early aughts that weren't gritty. I think we've gone too far in that direction. We've kind of stayed in that space. This one doesn't feel over polished though.
So what are some of your takeaways from this film? What would you say are some of the big takeaways?
That I wish more movies were made like this. There's a lot that is just having fun. Like the stakes. I know the stakes are kind of high. It's our CIA agents are in jeopardy. And it's a plot device worth the amount of tension and intrigue and double crossing, sure. But what I find really tiring in a lot of modern action movies lately is the stakes are always the world's gonna end. I'm just tired. So
when are the stakes going to be the universe? Why stop at the world?
It is. Sometimes it is. But what, just going back really quickly to because I wanted to mention this in the last episode, but even then I was getting ahead of myself, there's a documentary on Brian De Palma that we watched a couple years ago. And when he was going through the time in his life when he was making Mission Impossible, he was approached by Tom Cruise, I think, chosen by Tom Cruise, as all the other movies, to direct this movie. And I don't think it was explicit, but it was clear to him that Tom Cruise needed to be the star of this movie. And you can't do that with someone who has a team that they work really well with. Mm. And his solution, I think it was his solution. I could be wrong, but I remember it as his solution that okay, well, we just need to kill everyone off really quickly. And then at that point it becomes a Tom Cruise movie. Sure. And not an action movie starring Tom Cruise.
What were the trailers even? Did we talk about the trailers?
Oh, yeah.
No, we're still we went from box to movie and skipped the trailers. The trailers in this movie, to start off, is Star Trek: First Contact.
Wow.
Yep.
And this is a movie that I saw in theaters with my dad, because my dad was a real big Trekkie. I didn't really get into Star Trek until I was an adult, like not really, but I sure as shit went to see all the movies in theaters. And I do remember seeing this one. It's the one with the Borg lady that tries to get sweet on Picard.
Yes.
I think we were all disappointed with how that one ended.
How many trailers do these movies usually have? Wow.
It depends on the length of the movie.
Sure.
Like we have some tapes here, Postman, that are so long there's no room for trailers on like the actual like physical tape
Sure.
that fits
Valmont.
inside the cassette. Valmont did
was
not
so
have
long.
any. And like one thing that stuck out to me when I was watching the trailer for First Contact was how different, and this is something I didn't understand as a kid because I didn't watch the TV show at the time, but the lighting is so different. Like
With that trailer for
yeah.
Star Trek, were there any other trailers that were of note on that film?
Yes, there were a few. The second one is for The Phantom. Have you heard of this? You had heard of it.
Phantom.
I know many movies using the word phantom, but
Is that-
I'm not sure.
No,
of
it's just
this.
Chris
Phan-
O'Donnell?
No,
Or who is that?
Billy Zane.
Billy Zane, yeah.
Billy Zane.
Yeah.
This one is interesting because, well, I haven't seen it, but I know it as an infamous flop. And it actually, I would really like to know who directed it. We could have looked this up. We can have a researcher do that next time. Because it has the same, I guess, like strategy from like taking a comic book and turning it into a film as like maybe like the Tim Burton Batmans or the Joel Schumacher Batmans. But like this movie has, I don't think I've ever heard like a single good thing about this movie besides it's so bad it might be funny. So moving on to the next trailer, I'm reminded by how weird this selection was, especially for Mission Impossible, but it's kind of jumping all over the place. Like maybe Star Trek and The Phantom share similarities in like their target audience, maybe even with Mission Impossible. But our next trailer is Nickelodeon's Harriet the Spy.
Out of left field, but the spy,
Very out of left field.
but the spy theme
Yeah.
I never
is
thought
is the tie-in. So why not?
There you go.
Why
There
not?
You go.
You know.
Yeah, I thought this this is no longer a weird set of trailers for me after that very simple, really something that I just did not connect with. Well, probably because like I'm not really thinking about the movie. Not really. Well,
You're
no,
more
I was.
focused on like the trailer in front of you, almost maybe.
Kind of. I think like trailers do like a good trailer does a decent job of like immersing you in whatever story it's telling for, minute and a half, 2 minutes. And all of these did. Those
Well,
are all the
here's-
trailers.
Here's the real question then. Would you rewind and watch this movie again?
I did rewind it.
Oh, it's already happened.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. There's your recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, like last week, I know we joked about it, or like for Valmont, I said I wouldn't rewind it, but I don't know if I actually did because it's also just somewhat of a reflex.
Mhm.
I
but
did
yes.
not.
You didn't rewind it?
No, so like when we were finishing that movie,
You just popped it
I just
out.
like stood right up and like hit stop, and yeah, like so.
Eject.
Breathed a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
And your reminder is when you put it in again by accident, it's already over, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I've been reminded.
yeah, totally.
Should that happen again? Should you elect to watch Valmont?
Yeah.
But I will watch Mission Impossible again. I think the last time I watched my tape at home was maybe a year ago, if not maybe like within this calendar year.
Glowing recommendation. What's next on the list?
The next movie I watched was Country Life.
Okay.
The reason we watched this one before The Mummy was because I didn't want to. I just don't want to do what we did with Valmont, where we saved the one I was least looking forward to last. And not to say that I was like really bummed, because like I really love Sam Neill
He's great.
just as an actor, and he seems like a really chill prison abolitionist. The box, we have Sam Neill and Greta Scacchi. 2 thumbs up, says Siskel and Ebert. And then another one that says, great fun from the Chicago Tribune. Now, do we know which newspaper in Chicago that Ebert wrote for?
Wasn't it the Sun
Chicago Sun.
Times?
Okay.
I believe it's the Sun Times.
Okay. I should know that. But I really don't pay attention as much as I should in a lot of places.
Fun is a word.
Which is why I take a lot of notes.
Great fun, I believe it was.
Yeah. No, I mean, fun is a word.
To describe this movie?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
what is your one word description, I guess, as that?
Oh, for this movie?
Yeah.
Depressing.
Wow. Fun?
Oh, me? No, not fun. Bitter.
Depressing and bitter.
Oh, can I change mine? It still starts with a D. Disappointment.
Oh. Now, is that disappointment internally
No.
towards the film? Okay.
No.
I have nothing but good things to say about this film.
No, this is still a good movie,
yeah.
but so I didn't read the log line until after we watched it, but just looking at, the words in big print, it's like great fun, terrific, said the Seattle Times, someone at the Seattle Times. And then someone at 60-second preview said, a gem.
Well, I wonder what type of
So I assumed it was going to be like some kind of comedy, like Sam Neill has this like little smirk with the little kissy print on his face. So it looks like it might be some kind of a...
It's marketed as a rom-com almost is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah. There are characters that have comedic relief, like it is comic relief with a few characters, but the story itself is very real.
Talented Sam Neill, Jurassic Park, The Hunt for Red October. Stars with sexy Greta Scacchi. Presumed innocent, The Player. In this delightful comedy, cheered by critics nationwide. Spring fever runs wild when a snooty native son returns to his hometown and brings along his voluptuous new wife, Scacchi. Before long, every man in this tiny town is falling head over heels for the charms of this sensuous beauty. But things really heat up when she suddenly finds herself falling in love with the local doctor and resident playboy, Neil. You won't believe all of the comic hanky-panky going on behind closed doors in this entertaining treat. These things do happen.
Sort of.
This is not what this movie is about in the slightest.
Yeah.
That sounds like the first 10 minutes.
No, not really. It's just, they technically happen.
And the other thing, too, that's worth saying here is that when it says, like, every man in town falls for this woman, it's like you maybe meet, like, two of them.
And they're not in town.
And they're not in town. It's literally in the name. This is a country life. Like,
this is a Michael Blakemore film. I forgot to read that. That is on the box.
What year was this film made?
Okay, so it was, it actually wasn't, because Jurassic Park was 93.
Was that? Okay.
Right? Okay, this was, this movie came out in 1994.
94.
Okay.
It was adapted from a play,
Chekhov play.
Uncle Vanya.
Yeah.
That's another title that I've heard a lot in Seinfeld. And whenever, like, first, like, when I hear it, I just can't help but laugh. But I think I'm reminded that it's a real play. But it just feels like I'm learning also that, like, oh yeah, Uncle Vanya's a real play. And to kind of like wrap that up, one other thing I wanted to mention was just like how misleading this cover is too. Like I mentioned that Sam Neill's got the little kiss on his cheek. That never happens in the movie. Like,
sounds like a producer got their hands involved on this cover a little bit.
Marketing department,
yeah, the marketing teams, yeah.
It's also weird because Sam Neill is kind of like a glorified MacGuffin in this movie. Like he's not at all, I would say, like
a playboy,
the main character. He just happens to be like the peak of this love triangle that sort of exists as a point of tension in the movie.
Yeah, he's kind of there to...
He illustrates the dissatisfaction that the literary critic's wife has with her
disillusionment
marriage.
Too. It's like I think she felt tricked into the relationship that she got into, and really quickly, like it doesn't take long for her to kind of realize that she would, or I think she kind of freely admits that she doesn't like being married to her husband.
Yeah,
I'm just so. It's just so strange because the woman who played the daughter, I don't remember her name. And that's because I do think that she's more of a main character than Greta Scacchi.
100%.
Would you rewind this movie?
You see Sam Neill's butt.
Oh, that's
Need I
all
say
right.
more?
No,
gonna smirk
actually.
like he does.
Tell us about these trailers that
Yeah,
that were at the beginning.
The trailers on this one, I wrote like a few hot takes because I don't think any of the trailers on this one were movies that I had heard of.
2 of them were theatrical releases.
The first and second trailer both had, in quotes, one of the best films of the year.
Yes.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh.
But the second trailer actually may have delivered on that.
I want to see that. Okay, let's get to it. Let's get to it. This first one, one critic called it funny. It's called A Month by the Lake, and I did not like just reading the title. Usually, I can I have enough recall to know what that's about, and I'm just like, all right, what? I need to dive deep into these notes. I do not remember. Did not. I do now. It's the one with Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
And there's an older lady getting some action from a younger guy.
Well, the note that I wrote down is everyone wants to sleep with everyone except young people.
Oh,
because it's framed as this very sexy man really likes older women, and I don't know. This lady looks like she's maybe in her late 40s or probably 50s.
Yeah.
And then it's also, what I'm guessing is this older lady's eventual love interest, and he's just courting like a very young Uma. I think this was the movie after Pulp Fiction, because they mentioned Pulp Fiction's Uma Thurman.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And yeah, both these couples are just like really dying to sleep with each other, and it's framed as a sleeping with old. It's like help the aged. Like sleeping with old people rocks, and I'm like, okay, so
good for
nowhere,
the environment.
Yeah. Save a tree. Not a memorable trailer.
What was it followed up by? What was the second one that also said it was the best film of the year?
Now, this actually might be one of the best films of that year.
You're talking about the third one. This one, the one that we're talking about, wasn't one of the best films.
That's not the John Turturro.
No, this one is one is another like sad looking period piece called Feasts of July. Oh, okay. I remember. It's.
We just needed to say it one more time.
A woman. Say it again. I'll remember a name.
Feasts of July.
It's like I do believe in fairies. This one has like a woman with like a secret past.
Oh.
And whatever relationship she's starting or like in right now, like, oh, he can't know about her past. But then
the secret past.
There's a quick clip where a man says hello, and she's just like, oh shit. And then
the secret
her
past.
boyfriend is like, who's that? And she's like, no one. I'm like, seems like he knows you. That is actually all I remember.
Yeah, new phone, who dis?
I think that line was in the trailer, actually.
Yeah.
The third film is the one that we really want to watch.
Yes.
This movie looks great.
Yeah, I wrote, this looks good.
Please tell us in the comments if you've seen this movie.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Unstrung Heroes.
Oh.
Unstrung Heroes.
Unstrung Heroes.
This stars John Turturro, Andy McDowell, and Michael Richards.
Michael Richards.
Wow.
Yeah.
The short description for Unstrung Heroes is eccentric middle-aged adult friends, because this movie is about a boy. I don't remember what the conflict was at home, but I think maybe like someone was, his mother, Andy McDowell, is sick. And the little boy just like can't deal. So he goes to, I think, his uncle's house, who's like Michael Richards. And he lives with another middle-aged adult man, and they're both the funny kind of conspiracy kooks.
Yeah.
And I think it was maybe just like the relationship between like the boy and maybe him dealing with his mother's sickness, but then also the relationship between John Turturro and Michael Richards, because it seems like they've probably like butted heads their whole life, and then now that they're sharing custody of this kid of sorts.
And the cure for the sickness in the end was humor.
There's one more. This one actually looked really good too. This is what I described as The Mob Makes a Musical.
Okay.
A movie that, quote unquote, looks great, called Bullets Over Broadway. and the entire
this did
thing
look good,
has
yeah.
is
John
very
Cusack.
sepia. Yes, John Cusack. Jennifer Tilly's in this, so we got
Yeah.
a Tilly last week. We got another
yeah.
Tilly this week, just even briefly. A Broadway producer. I forget whether or not he's successful or always struggling, but he was able to finally finance a show with the help from the mob, and hijinks ensue.
Yeah.
That's a
And-
great premise.
You don't have to give me any reason to watch a John Cusack movie.
Really?
I will pretty much watch any John Cusack movie.
You think you know someone?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Giddy up.
Just want to say Bolts Over Broadway is a great name
It
for
is.
that film.
Have you seen it?
No,
Okay.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, there's so we think a central plot point or like conflict in this movie is like John Cusack is partnered, and this very eccentric Broadway, I think she's a wannabe or maybe a has-been, but she somehow seduces John Cusack into casting her. I think they maybe even have an affair. It's alluded to that he's a bad liar and did have an affair, but she's not good as a stage performer. So the musical that is financed by the mob is fronted by a person who can't sing, dance, or act.
All right. Well, shall we move on to the
thing you came here
wonderful
for.
Mummy, which I watched this morning, so it's very fresh in my mind.
You did?
Yeah.
Where did you watch it?
I actually supported the film when I chose to rent it for
Supported Universal?
$3.99.
Now I have a question before we get too far into this.
Yes.
Why'd you pick this movie?
That is a great question. So I was looking at the list of all these movies, and I was just going through, and The Mummy came up, and I stopped on it for a second, and I had watched it, I believe, might have been last year. I had watched it again after so long, and I remember really enjoying it. I remember getting into a conversation with a friend about it in terms of the adventure genre of movies and how The Mummy seemed to be this sort of, as I found out later in the production, sort of a chance almost that Hollywood was taking, but it almost seemed to be like a segue in adventure films. And I picked it in the sense of I missed this sort of style of film. And even in watching it, it has this cold open, so to speak, where a story is being told and then your movie starts. And it just felt so out of place from so many other movies and adventure movies and action movies. And the cast is so charismatic, and Brendan Fraser, recently making such a great comeback with The Whale with Darren Aronofsky, is such an
Killers of the Flower
incredible
Moon.
Oh yes, and he's such an incredible person and so charismatic in this film. So yeah, it just was something that I was like, you know what, I want to revisit this.
Yeah.
And found out that it is actually a film that you very much enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing a little bit of research on this, so the budget for this movie is $80 million. It is a remake of the 1932 or so Mummy. So 60 years later, a studio said, let's start doing this. Went through director after director after script after script, starting with wanting
A lot of committee choices.
Yes, wanted it to be more of a low scale. 10 million was what they were kind of aiming for.
That might have been really good.
Well, and they had people like George A. Romero's name was on it, and they were talking about some very like dark and gritty takes and something to separate it. They wanted to really separate it from the Mummy, and there was even a decision there was a lot of fear from the producers to keep the name as The Mummy because they were afraid that they would think of this old, boring film. And when this then got made and picked up everything, you talk about also that the CGI as well too, and the way that it's blended, and then there are a lot of practical sets, and there's a lot that goes into this, and a lot that went into like the locations that they filmed in. It was a 17-week shoot.
Wow.
And it was so...
What desert did they film in?
So they filmed in Morocco. They wanted to film in Egypt, but from what I read, there were political issues at the time that allowed them to, or disallowed them from being able to do that. And so they were in Morocco, and there was another location that I can't remember at this time, but a lot of the crew were injured. Yeah, always. A lot of the crew was injured. People were airlifted out. There was a stunt that Brendan Fraser almost died in, which was the hanging scene towards the beginning. So this was a lot.
Have not we learned?
So this was a lot of this was seen, I think, as a very risky film. And even when it came out, a lot of the reviews, I was even surprised by a lot of the present day reviews on this are not generally all super favorable. It's very much almost a smaller niche community that actually really enjoy this. But I think one thing that I realized seeing some of these reviews and hearing them is that at the time, what we think of as campy now, at the time, the words used were cheesy and corny. And so audiences watching something like this at the time, seeing that, almost had a negative take. And so as something ages, and I think it made something like 1 billion in VHS purchases afterwards, and it became this movie that everyone wanted, and so I think now how we refer to it as campy, it has that endearing quality where when it came out and the hesitation and all the fears from the marketing, the producers, all of that was stamped onto it. And then you see afterwards how these things age. So it just goes to show how some films have this really interesting lifespan. And I think this is one that, regardless of the rest of the franchise, this one just really still stands out as one that you can return to and watch and enjoy.
So there's nothing on this cover besides the title. Our beautiful 2 stars. I think Rachel Weisz was one of my very first celebrity crushes. And then the Mars Man, the face on Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty
Face
much
on
what
Mars.
it is.
Yeah.
And
You will command the sands.
So we have ellipses, mile a minute chills and thrills. Jeffrey Lyons of WNBC TV.
Wow. Pull the stretch for that.
And then we have Big Time Fun, says Bob Graham of the San Francisco Chronicle. So nothing to snuff at.
Yeah.
Deep in the Egyptian desert, a handful of people searching for a long-lost treasure have just unearthed a 3,000-year-old legacy of terror.
Yikes.
Combining the thrills of a rousing adventure with the suspense of Universal's legendary 1932 horror classic, The Mummy.
There it is.
Starring Brendan Fraser, is a true non-stop action epic filled with dazzling visual effects, top-notch talent, and superb storytelling. Oh, I missed one of the quotes because it was sort of tacked onto this below the log line. Brendan Fraser, ellipses, the ideal action adventure hero.
What could have been?
Dennis Cunningham of WCBS TV. Do you know what this was rated?
I'm going to guess
PG-13.
I'm going to guess PG.
It's PG.
Yeah.
Remember, there was no
Which movie was the one that Spielberg did that was the
Temple
case
of Doom.
for?
No, I looked it up towards the end when it's something that always bothered me. The spoilers where the mummy becomes mortal, then gets stabbed immediately.
Yeah.
And you just see him back away and he's holding the wound like he's got a tummy ache. There's no blood in this movie, I don't think.
Well, he's got some blood. He holds his hand up briefly. And he's got a little bit of speckles on his hand briefly.
Maybe.
And then that's when, I forget who says it, but they say, oh, he's mortal now, and backs up. And
well, the only actual blood is one of my favorite scenes where they're toasting in a bar and the fountain.
Oh, yes. It all turns into, one of the plagues.
Turns to blood and like that.
Well, but then you have at the very beginning.
But it looks like Kool-Aid.
Tongues being cut off. Mummification while people are alive. Very
you don't see any.
There's lots of shadow work. There's lots of shadow stabs, camera pans. Very unique ways to get around that.
And shadow fight, shadow animation. It's really those are the practical things that make all the other stuff work.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that the MPAA is an extremely arbitrary governing body, so they probably had to wheel and deal on that one.
Sure.
Hey, we can show this if we cut the blood.
Yeah. There's a lot of deal makings for that.
Sure.
Well, so what is one word that we would all use to, well, not collectively, what is one word that each of us would use to describe
I'm going to say it at the same time.
Film? Oh, wow.
No. This movie's thrilling.
Epic, I think, is the one that I kind of landed on good. After seeing the sets and just the scope.
Imhotep.
Imhotep.
Sure.
What trailers showed before this film?
Let's bust
None.
through these. That's
Really?
not true.
Well, they were advertisements.
Yeah,
Oh.
there were not movie trailers.
Oh.
Yeah, no trailers, but they were advertisements. The first one was for the Universal Jurassic Park ride.
Universal Studios Escape Jurassic Park
Yeah,
experience in Florida.
Why would you want to escape?
Maybe
Yeah.
something.
They played fetch with a Triceratops named Sarah.
Oh, I guess technically it's
First name Michael.
Huh? Yeah.
Michael Triceratops.
This guy
It's like,
who looks
hey.
like,
I'm gonna Triceratops.
unfortunately, looks like Danny Masterson.
Yeah.
Is I think like playing frisbee.
Oh, the
And-
convicted Danny from the
Yeah,
70s? Ah, yes.
It isn't him, but it's someone who looks like his character from that 70s show.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, is Dragonheart 2 also a trailer on this?
Oh, wow.
Did we see the Dragonheart 2 trailer on this one?
So
That
this was
is
really
the
this was really a push.
Yeah.
This was really a
Okay,
marketing.
Okay, so there was one movie
was one
trailer,
trailer,
and
yeah.
it was with the Masterson who hasn't gotten caught yet, allegedly. I don't not even that there's anything, but
We won't incriminate him.
no. So this Universal Studios Escape Jurassic Park just has this guy playing frisbee, and some dude is like, have you seen my pet? Have you? And he hands him a picture with a dinosaur on it, and surprise, his frisbee gets caught by a Triceratops.
I'm not
and
surprised.
I guess he somehow wandered onto Universal Studios Florida.
As they do.
Yeah.
It's the only way to make them the money.
I don't even know what this was about. They didn't it doesn't tell us what it was about. Do you remember?
Nah.
It just said
I just saw it like
saw it
3
twice.
hours ago. I just saw it again.
yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
Oh, that's right.
I was
So
might-
there's a game. There was a PC game.
Yeah, it might have been promotional for like something that was maybe being built, so they didn't have anything to shoot. Okay, so the next series of advertisements is for The Mummy 1999 on DVD.
Wow.
and the soundtrack.
Oh.
I'm getting there.
Oh,
Spoiler.
I wanted to add this to the list of VHS tapes that have a trailer for the movie we're about to watch.
oh yeah. Yeah, that is
Like Alien
its own
Resurrection.
category. That is its own category.
Just
Although
why
Alien-
though? Just why? Why would you need
Well,
a
I can
trailer
understand
for
why
what
they
you're
would
about
want
to
to
watch?
push DVDs during a time when DVDs were like popular and like there were people in our family for sure who were really excited to like ditch their VHS
For an
once,
HD DVD.
Once they got a DVD player.
The
It's,
DVDs.
it's like don't look back.
had been out a year
Mm.
at that point. So I mean, yeah.
And that was followed up by the Mummy soundtrack.
Mm.
Original music, the epic score played several different ways.
Danny Elfman, right?
Imhotep. Imhotep. That's
And
a
then-
banger.
And then most of the rest of these like trailers were compilation, kind of like compilation advertisement trailers. The first one was for just Universal monsters, so like the classic Creature from the Black Lagoon, Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch. Like there were quite a bit.
Yeah.
And also, like the original Dracula was also in that montage. Well, then followed up by a somewhat standalone trailer for Dracula, rescored.
Oh,
That's your bag.
rescored, retold.
No, just
Renewed.
rescored.
By Bauhaus.
Wow.
Let's see. That was followed up by a Universal Monsters coupon. What was this?
Buy one monster, get one monster half off.
Maybe I just told you where to find coupons, but this was just like we're doing this again, and it's a deal. Like here's this deal.
Universal's coming off as really insecure here with these this marketing.
Insecurity is a theme in the movie, though. The next one is Alfred Hitchcock Collection with rebate. Oh, maybe that's what the coupon was. It was a rebate? I would have written rebate. But this was actually something that, like, when we're watching it, it's like, it was actually a really enticing advertisement. We're just like, damn, I want to watch any of these.
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't excited to watch The Mummy, but just like seeing all of these movies, like someone who helped define the thriller genre.
Totally.
During it was just like, Let's find all these. And we
Yeah.
have a bunch here. We have the birds at home.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was one more at home that I can't. No, I'm
Rear
confusing
Window.
it with high anxiety. We have high anxiety at home. Okay. The next one is
Wow, they really loaded them on.
Yeah. Then we get our first kind of legitimate trailer of first and only legitimate trailer of the tape, which is Dragonheart 2.
I would love to see Dragonheart 1.
I'll show ye adventure. Was my hot take for that. I think I was making fun of that. We have this movie in some kind of medieval, or would you say was you know that distinction better than I do, but some kind of medieval movie with dragons and knights and
As they
kingdoms and such.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we have the Masterson from Malcolm in the Middle, not saying ye.
Yeah, so he's kind of snarky, so it feels
He
like
sounds just like Francis. He's talking
you're
just like
watching
Francis.
in A Knight's Tale. It is Christopher Masterson in A Kid in King Arthur's Court.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That,
He's on
that
his
is-
bike and he falls back.
yeah,
Yes.
That is what
That
this
is
movie felt
great.
like it was.
Wonderful,
Okay.
Yeah,
wonderful childhood memory there.
Yeah.
Along with the big green.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us through these 3 tapes, these 3 movies
So we
of your
got
collection.
we got 3 more for next week.
Oh, let's do
what
the
are
draw.
what are they?
So cut to now, and we have the mystery part of Mystery Simon Theater 3000, which is the tapes that I have to watch this week.
This is Juan Carlos pick.
This is the one. Ronan, this is gonna be fun. Oh my God, another Jean Reno movie that Juan picked.
Jean Reno.
He was the helicopter pilot from Mission Impossible.
Yes.
I thought you said genre. No.
Another genre? No.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
It's like
It's no French roast.
It's like your birthday every week.
This is the random pick.
That's not bad.
It's a good random pick.
Yeah.
What is it?
Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. I believe this one was Kramer's favorite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Wait, so we got the...
So next week we do not have a guest host, so I will be the guest host.
Oh.
And this is my pick.
Oh.
And I chose
wow.
this.
Oh, okay, that was my
not
next
random.
question. So you didn't just look away and pull something off the shelf.
No.
Thank you.
The movie can't talk about movies eventually without talking about this one.
No, this is fine. I'm excited.
It was a tough choice. I almost chose Citizen Cone.
Wow.
I almost chose it because it's about a guy who is like chums with Joe McCarthy.
Yeah, it's just funny. James
and
Woods looks like an absolute doofus, allegedly, on the cover.
Yeah.
And just seeing that right next to Citizen Kane and Citizen Cone,
Yeah.
it's a very funny side by side visual.
Totally.
Okay,
All right.
Well, thank you, Tyler, for
Thanks for having me.
picking The Mummy, coming over, and then talking about it with us,
Yes.
and then perfectly asking me all of your scripted questions.
Yes, they were. I remembered them all thanks to my handy notes.
Is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here with us?
I love animation. I love making movies. I love everything about film. I think since I was a kid, I was making home movies, and I think it's one of my dreams to direct and write and edit and shoot all sorts of films. And so one thing that you can find out on the web under the name Wilm Freddle's Oddities, you can find a website. You can find me on YouTube, Vimeo, Instagram. You can see some animation, some live action films, kind of a broad scope of just storytelling overall that focuses on oddities and just stories that are a little peculiar. I really enjoy filmmaking as a process, but also in all of its different forms. So I really just can't get enough of making a project, regardless of how it's made or where it's made or why it's made or who it's made for, as long as it's made. So that's something that I would love people to watch and share. That's one of my I make films so that I could watch them, and then secondly I make them so other people can enjoy them and watch them as well too.
Love
and
it.
those are all going to be linked in the show notes, description below.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching Mystery Simon Theater 3000. You can follow us on Instagram. It is MSimonT3k. Producer Johnny is posting a lot of videos and photos. You can also sign up for our newsletter at weirdwonderfulstuff.substack.com, where I share my alphabetization process of these tapes. You'll also get to see some behind-the-scenes photos. Sometimes I take a tape home to watch, and I'll share it with those R.
And if you would like to be a guest on our show, hit us up. Send us an email. And,
Johnny at
we'd love to
weirdwonderful.club.
invite you. All right.
Thank
that's
you.
it, folks.
I'll see you on the other side.